Patrick Kincaid, we are back once again on lesson 1.05, Google Sheets Basics. Kind of rolling through a few lessons here on Google Tools, Google Drive, Google Tools, and now we're going to look at Google Sheets Basics. So we can use Sheets just like Excel, right? Google Sheets pretty much is a mirrored version of Excel. There is some slight differences in functionality in the back end. They're actually written in completely different computer languages, but they look almost the same. And I have found that there is a little bit more user friendliness to Google Sheets than there is to Excel, just for my taste. Okay, so that's why I use Google Sheets. I also use Google Sheets because I like the way it ties into the other Google tools and how it ties into Google Drive and just that whole suite of Google tools. Including Sheets, just makes for a really all-inclusive, easy to talk to each other package. Okay, so we use Sheets just like Excel, and you can use them. You can open and work in and create XLX files and XLXS files, which are Excel extensions, and then .csvs is mostly what we use them for. .csv is comma separated value, I think. It's just ways the data is downloaded in a certain format, so you can use it in various spreadsheet programs, right? Various spreadsheet apps, just like Google Sheets is and Microsoft Excel. Those are both spreadsheet apps. Okay, so the .csvs, we're going to be looking at some of those here in a second. Our favorite habits when we're in Google Sheets, almost every time I import a CSV file or I download data somewhere, using some app, or I'm on Amazon or Helium 10, and I download some data and I want to import it into a Google Sheet, I do these four things consistently every time, and that is import the data, then I freeze it, and then I wrap it, and then I filter it. Okay, I do that most of the time when I'm working within a Google Sheet spreadsheet. I'm going to show you that here in a second. Okay, so just keep in mind that there's some constants that you want to do. You're going to get an opportunity to take a little bit more training and probably learn some things that maybe I don't know or I don't implement regularly. But so that'll be fun for you, and you'll be an expert in no time, as much as you need to be an expert, right? If you've never used Google Sheets before, don't worry, it's okay. We're going to get you there, and that's why I'm introducing this lesson early on in the game. Because we use the Google spreadsheets, or we use spreadsheets so much, and those of my sellers and clients that I have started working with that weren't doing so well with that most important of foundational principles of selling on Amazon, run your numbers, know your numbers. The ones who weren't doing that part well, they didn't know their numbers very well, it's because they were not using a spreadsheet to track various numbers along the way. Okay, spreadsheets are the easiest way to track numbers and to get data from other apps that track numbers for you in your Amazon business. So when you download that data, sometimes we need to look at it in a different way than where we've downloaded it from, or we need to create a new way to look at it and break it down, or you're going to be using one of my tools, which are all Google Sheets spreadsheets, right? A lot of them are, okay? They're not all spreadsheets, don't worry. Not all the tools are going to be spreadsheets. So if you're like, spreadsheets, I don't want to do, I'm not an accountant. In fact, a little backstory. When I got out of high school, I started majoring in pre-engineering, right? And in community college. I was in decent math all the way through high school, all up to calculus, and I was good in math, right? So I got into pre-engineering out in college, and I immediately kind of moved away from that. I didn't like the long-term commitment it was, so I decided I'm going to go study to be a CPA, right? An accountant. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was a few years after I got out of high school, and I've been in going to community college for a couple years now. It took me one semester majoring in accounting before I dropped out of college. Changing my major to accounting, which is a whole lot of statistics using a whole lot of spreadsheets, it pushed me out of college. I quit because I couldn't, I couldn't handle it. My life had veered off in another direction at that point. Alongside that, but switching to accounting is what killed my college dreams for about 15 years to follow. It took me 15 years to get back to school after that. So just to let you know, I understand if you're not a big spreadsheet person, and that's okay. That's why I'm introducing you to this easy tool to use in Google Sheets, and I'm just trying to get you the basics so you can actually only use it what you need to use it for your Amazon business. Okay. Maybe over time you'll become more of an expert, but it's totally okay if this makes you cringe. You can get there. I promise you. I've had many a client who were not big on spreadsheets. Some of them never had really even opened more than one Excel spreadsheet before. They'd never used Google Sheets, and now they're using it just fine to get done what we need to get done. And they're using my tools that I provide them, and everything's cool. So don't sweat that. All right, so let's do a real seller scenario right now. And I'm going to show you how you would actually use a Google Sheet in your Amazon business, okay? So, let me get my screen share up right here. I'm going to go over here. Okay, so let's say we're shopping on Amazon. Oh, let's say whoa, crazy! Let's say we're shopping on Amazon, right? And let's say we're looking at pampas grass, okay? I just opened up Amazon.com, typed in pampas grass, up come my results, bada bing, bada bang. And okay, I'm interested in this product. I'm looking at it. I want to see some data on it, so I run my Helium 10 Chrome extension. Don't worry if you don't know what this is. You're going to be really familiar with this eventually coming up in the coming weeks, okay? We're really going to go deep into using this tool. But X-Ray is the Helium 10 tool suite. The Chrome extension allows us to have these tools to use when we're looking at Amazon.com product listing, catalog listings, so we can see different types of data. So the X-Ray tool, it pulls up all kinds of data that it grabs from each one of those listings that was shown here on the search results, right? So here's all those products in order from the catalog back there, and it gives us all this different kinds of data. Well, quite often we want to use this, we want to save it, we want to import it into another spreadsheet so we can really start looking at the data outside of here, and we can like kind of keep track of it. We can save it, because once I close this tab down right here, this X-Ray screen is gone. So I lose all this. So I quite often want to download this data. So anywhere where you have data out in the world, it could be on this X-Ray extension. It could be really anywhere on any number of apps. The most common data file format that you can download is a CSV. If you see down here, we got our little download icon. And it says download CSV report. So I'm going to click on that. And as you can see here, it downloaded my Helium 10 X-Ray CSV, right? Okay, so now what do I do with that, right? Well, let's say I wanted to start storing my data that I'm getting for my pampas grass products, and maybe I'm looking up 5 different products today because I found that they were a strong potential for me wanting to maybe sell. And I want to download all that data so I can look at it and compare them next to each other. Well, what you can do is open up a new tab here if you're in Google Chrome. And if you type sheets.new, this is a cool little trick I just learned recently actually, then it'll automatically open up a new Google Sheet for you in the Google Sheets app, and that's what this is. It'll create a new spreadsheet for you, right? Another way you could get to make a Google Sheet would be, if you're in Google Drive, you could go new Google Sheet, right? You can create a new one. Another way you could get to it would be go here to your Google Apps, anywhere you're in Google Drive or anywhere, you can go to the Google Apps button here and select Sheets. And that will open up Google Sheets. And then you could do a new blank spreadsheet, right? Notice how this looks exactly the same as this one over here that I just typed in, sheets.new. A lot easier doing it that way. All right, so let's say we're going to do a product data. Let's just say it's December of 2029. All right. Okay, so now I've got my new spreadsheet with a single sheet. Okay, I've got that data I downloaded. All right. So this is one of those 4 that I was talking about. Import, which we're going to do first, then we're going to freeze it, wrap it, and filter it. Okay. So importing it, going back to our product data sheet. First step, import. So go File, Import. We want to, you can either pick something you've already got in here, right? Something that was shared with you in the Google Drive, something that was recent in the Google Drive, or you can upload a file from your computer. And I simply click on that upload. You can either drag a file here or select a file from your device. Since I see mine right here, I'm on a Mac, it pops it down here in my downloads folder, and I think Windows machines do the same. You can just grab it and drag it, drop it right in there. It takes that CSV file and it starts to import it. Now it asks you, do you want to create a new spreadsheet? Do you want to insert a new sheet? Do you want to replace your old spreadsheet, replace your current sheet, append to the current sheet, replace data at selected cell? Well, most of the time I just go insert new sheet. Okay, I leave this detect automatically there. I leave convert text to numbers, data, and formulas there, and I click import data. So as you can see right here, it left our sheet 1 alone and it made a new sheet, created a new sheet. And bam, look at all that data we got. Okay, now we get to keep this data. Back over here, once I close this down, it's gone. I have to go run it again. Now, another way you might be using this is maybe you're going to track data over the course of a couple weeks. You're really settled in on this product idea, and you can rename this sheet to Pampas grass _, and you know where you got this data, on what date you got it. You can maybe come back here in 2 weeks, run the search again, get the data. The data is going to be different. The data changes. The numbers change, okay, from day to day on Amazon. Every 4 hours, actually, it usually changes. But it can change pretty drastically in a week's time, right? So when we're going to pick a product to really launch first with, we want to look at our data long term, at least over a couple weeks period of time. And there's also ways we can look at various data points in here while we're looking at things on this. We can look at the history of the sales and the history of the rankings and all that, which helps us look back in time and see the product over time. But maybe you want to store hard data now, a week from now, and then a week after that. This is a great way to do that, right? That way you can compare it and see what trends on certain products, which way they're headed, what they're doing. Okay, so we've imported our data. Now we're going to do those other 3 things. So what I want to do is, you could highlight the top row and go View, Freeze, up to row 1. Okay? What freeze does is it freezes this, whatever you freeze it up to. When you start scrolling down, it keeps that top one there. If I wasn't frozen, no rows, then when I scroll down, you see I lose my headings of the top row. I want to see my headings so I know what each of these columns is. Without it frozen, it just scrolls down the page, right? I'm using my mouse wheel and I'm scrolling down the page. Same thing over here. If you grab, oops, I moved something there. We lose our top row. So that's why freezing is important, so we can keep track of things. And you can freeze a row or a series of rows, or you can freeze a column. Now the easy way to do freeze, instead of going up to there to view to freeze, you're going to learn this in your quick other training video. It's going to drive the point home. You can just grab these gray lines right here and bring those down. And that just froze that, right? What if I wanted to freeze this first? I wanted to freeze the product names So when I scrolled sideways, it keeps the product name over there and scrolls through everything else. So I grabbed this line and moved it over. So this froze this column, this froze this row, and we're happy, okay? So that's freeze. Next is wrapping. Now you can see here, these titles, we don't get to see all these, right? Because they're cutting them off. So if you highlight this column and you go over here to the text wrapping icon, you got 3 different options. You can either let it play out past the line, you can wrap it, or you can cut it off at the line. Right now it's cut off at the line. I always want to wrap it, okay? Wrap it basically just turns each of these cells big enough, makes them big enough to show the whole title. Bam, see that? Now I can read the whole title in these. And I might want to grab this here and make it wider. See that? Now I know I can see the whole product title, right? So that's wrapping. And quite often I'll do that for the whole top row, my column headings, in case on some CSVs you import, there's really long titles as to what this column is. You know, there's really long header titles. So I would wrap that entire top row. It's not really doing much for us right now because these are all less wide than the column width is. So you can already read everything that's in there. There's maybe one over here to the right that was, nope, looks like they're all imported the right size. Okay, so that's wrap, okay? Now the last thing, if we keep this top column selected here, the last thing is create a filter. And this is something you're going to see me do quite often. I just want to introduce you to the idea of it. Filters are ways that we can really change the way we look at all this data. It's just like filtering when you're shopping and you go up to filter. Like, I only want to see stuff that's 25 bucks or less. I only want to see stuff from the Nike brand. You know, same thing here. It's just we're going to add filters to whatever we want to add filters to. I typically do it to the whole to the whole spreadsheet, which pretty much makes it where we can sort things and display things according to ways we set up for each of these columns. Okay, so simply put, if you've got that top row highlighted, you can create a filter by clicking there. And if you noticed, it selected the whole spreadsheet. Everything's blue, right? And then it added these little upside down hamburger bars here to each of these columns. And so now we know when we come in here and look at this, oh, the filters are on. I can go here, and if I wanted to search by price, see who was, or by sales, let's say I wanted to filter this whole sheet by sales and see who sold the most every month, or revenue. Let's do revenue. Who's making the most dollars every month? I can click on that filter there, and you got all kinds of different choices here. But if I sort from Z to A, from the most to the least, boom, it sorts everything. Oh, it's got these NAs in here. I don't like those. So you can click on here. You can go down here, and you can turn off the NAs. Click OK. Look at that. We got rid of the NAs, the guys who aren't making any money. And now we're just seeing everything was resorted. Every single one of these rows was moved around so that they're in order now of revenue from most to least. Okay, so that's a filter in action there. And there's a whole lot more things you can do with filters. You know, you can do multiple filters. This filter will stay on. I can go add a filter on this one too. I can go add a filter on this one too. You know, it really can get kind of fun, and you can really narrow things down. Okay, you can really narrow your data down. Instead of looking at everything, let's say I want to only see everything that's making a revenue over greater than, let's say, $25,000, right? It just took our 58 or so listings and it knocked them down to 11 or so, because these are the only ones that are selling over that 25,000 that I put in there. Okay, so it's filtered for revenue to be over 25,000. that's all it's displaying. So it really helps you when you're looking at data and analyzing data later. We're going to get more into this in our next phase of the blueprint. In the research phase, you're going to really get into a lot more of this, and you're going to be seeing why I'm introducing you to this Google Sheets app right now, okay? Because it's really important that you start getting used to using this app. All right? Time for your action item. All right, hopefully that was useful. So next action item is I'm going to have you watch another training video that's going to go through some more details of how to use Google Sheets. Again, if you are familiar with Google Sheets, you don't think you need this, I'll just let you know that I am really familiar with Google Sheets, and yet I watched this video the other day, and I've watched it 1.5 times now. I've gotten some things from it, some techniques that I did not know before. So there's always room for new learning, right? So you can go ahead and click watch here if you're looking at the slide file, or you can click in the link down below that I put in the description here in the lesson in your portal, and go ahead and go watch that and get some more Google Sheets knowledge. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that's serving you. I am going to say that I guess that's it. So I'll see you on the next one. Take care.